finally watched some new releases here recently thanks to hbomax, so let's just talk about them. One of them I saw was Earwig and the Witch, the newest Studio Ghibli movie, and it's pretty awful. Studio Ghibli is typically almost like the gold standard when it comes to animated films, Earwig and the Witch being their first film to be completely CGI animated, and it looks terrible. It looks like that kind of animation you get from a movie that's like trying to rip off a mainstream animated movie. It just looks so cheap. They also try to use exaggerated facial features that you would see in a lot of animated movies or Studio Ghibli movies, but in 3D it's kind of horrifying. It does not translate very well into 3D animation. As for the story though, the film follows an orphan named Wig or Earwig when she is adopted by a witch and the mandrake and is forced to clean up the house as like an extra pair of hands for the witch. That's honestly pretty much the entire film. The entire film just feels like the first episode of a TV series. It doesn't feel like a standalone film. There's no conclusion to this movie. It feels like the film finally started to move along the story and then it just ends. There's just credits and you're like, what? We bounce back and forth at the beginning between the English audio and the Japanese audio because the English audio is pretty bad. The Japanese audio is not much better because the performances here just aren't very good. It doesn't even feel like a Studio Ghibli movie. There's no character growth or development, no sense of adventure or wonderment, and while there's witches and spells, very little fantastical moments feel magical. It just feels like a poorly animated Annie movie. There's a band in the film which is called Earwig, which is a huge centerpiece to tie the characters together. But other than knowing the main characters are in the band, there's real no development from it and it's very underutilized. They only ever play one song from the band too. You don't hear any of their other music. This is by far the worst Studio Ghibli movie I've seen, like by far. The Little Things, also on HBO Max, is Oscar bait to a T. It has a great cast with Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and debatable Jared Leto, and Washington's character is really the only character with fat to chew on. He felt like the most thought out and developed character in the story, and while Malek's character shares striking similarities to Washington's character's personality, he's a rather flat character as well. Not to mention, but this might be one of the worst performances I've seen from Malek. Not saying he's really that bad in it, he just doesn't really have anything to work with until the end of the film. Jared Leto feels like Jared Leto rather than a character. His character isn't really that interesting, but feels to serve the plot points and comes off rather cartoonish at times. The film follows a deputy sheriff played by Denzel, who is an ex-detective when he gets caught back up into the whirlwind of being a detective when a string of murders start to appear to be connected. That's something I really liked about Denzel's character was his obsession to try and solve a case and the extent he was willing to go and the level he was willing to let it drive him into madness. Outside of that though, this film doesn't really offer much else. The score is weak and forgettable, the cinematography is fine, the editing isn't special, it's fine. This film just feels like it's trying to get Oscar noms while not really presenting anything outstanding. It's one of those films that while I like some things, I've seen other films do similar things and way better, and it just seems really forgettable.